So good morning. We'll be starting our webinar, Sharing Knowledge on Social Development Policies, the Brazilian Experience right now. This webinar is a partnership between the Global Development Learning Network, GDLN, and the Brazil Learning Initiative, World Without Poverty. We will start with an introduction from Dr. Bernardo Kipnis, coordinator of GDLN Brazil and vice president in the GDLN Americas. The main presentation will be held by Luiz Henrique Paiva, research associate at the International Policy Center for Inclusive Growth of the United Nations Development Program, researcher at the Institute of Applied Economic Research, IPEA, in Brazil, and former National Secretary of the Bolsa Família program at the Ministry of Social Development and Fight Against Hunger. So first, we will start with Dr. Bernardo Kipnis. He will make an introduction about GDLN and about the topics we will be holding in the webinar. Okay.
Good morning, everyone who is watching, listening us. I welcome you to this webinar, and I would like to thank Luiz Henrique Paiva and also the World Bank for this possibility of sharing our knowledge about Brazilian experience. But what I want to say some words about this, what I regard as an interesting network, is a global GDLN, Global Development Learning Network. It started in 2000 with an initiative of the World Bank, at that time with a focus in learning about development, develop solutions, and sharing knowledge since then. Then the technology was video conference, basically, but 16 years later we have an evolution in the technology, so we have another technological possibilities to share knowledge. We are spread around 83 countries, 120 GDLN centers, mainly in developing countries. And in Brazil, GDLN is hosted by University of Brasilia and the Center of Advanced Studies in Government and Public Administration, CEAI. And we hope that, and its mission is to share knowledge specifically focus on development. So this presentation today, it's a very important, and we are very glad to use the network to share this knowledge and this Brazilian experience in social development. So I hope that we have a very productive morning, and I pass the word to Luiz Henrique for the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Bernardo. And right now, Luiz is going to hold the main presentation about WWP. And if you have any questions or comments, please write in the chat to your top right corner of the screen, and we will read the questions in the end of the presentation. Okay? Can start, Luiz.
Okay, many thanks. Thanks, Professor Bernardo. Thanks, Natalia, and hello, everyone. My objective here is to introduce, to present to you some or a few of the Brazilian initiatives to overcome extreme poverty and to reduce inequality. So my first initiative here is dated in 2003, but I should emphasize that the Brazilian social protection system started much before this, actually 8 years before. It was in 1923 that the first law of social protection emerged in Brazil. This law protected workers from the rail sector. Later on, in the following decades, most of the Brazilian workers, or the totality of workers in the formal sector, were covered by a series of laws that protected these categories. And until the 1970s, we offered social insurance for most of the social risks to virtually all the workers in the formal sector. Obviously, the main problem was that it was a contributory form to deliver social protection, or in other words, only the members of the economic core, if you will, could receive social protection. Most workers didn't have anything. And the very beginning of the 70s, the first non-contributory and semi-contributory schemes emerged, targeting the disabled, older people, and small-scale farmers. These schemes emerged in the first half of the 70s and were substantially improved in the first half of the 90s. So we had very good coverage, especially addressed to older people. In the mid-90s, here in Brazil, we had very low poverty rates among older people. We were very well protected, but poverty were mainly concentrated on children, especially. And we had virtually nothing offered for those families that were at their working age, but didn't have any money to contribute. So they were not disabled, they were not old. They were working people, normally working, but not in the formal sector and not receiving money enough to contribute and to get a social insurance. To close this gap, is that conditional cash transfers emerged in Brazil in the very beginning of the 2000s and at the national level. Conditional cash transfers emerged in Brazil and Mexico in the second half of the 90s. In Brazil, it was fundamentally at the local level in cities like Brasília, the capital, or Campinas in the countryside of São Paulo. And only in 2001 we had the first conditional cash transfers emerged. We had these conditional cash transfers emerging at the national level. And Brazil created 4 conditional cash transfers between 2001 and 2003. The problem being that sometimes they were overlapped, and we had problems of coverage. So it was not uncommon to see in the same neighborhood, in the same poor neighborhood, families receiving 2, 3, even 4 of these conditional cash transfers, and a neighbor of them living in pretty much the same conditions, receiving nothing. So to try to make a proper arrangement to fix these problems, Bolsa Família emerged in the end of 2003, in October 2003. Bolsa Família was a way to unify, to put together all these existing conditional cash transfers under the same rules, the same eligibility criteria, using the same technology, using the same unified registry as data set that could give all the information and data necessary for you to conduct the program. Basically, the Bolsa Família program is a conditional cash transfers, and conditional cash transfers have 2 main characteristics, features. The first one is that it's targeted. It's a cash transfer, targeted cash transfers targeted on the poorest. And the second one is that these cash transfers are conditional. In other words, the benefit is paid conditional to the families to comply with requirements related to education and health. The program is fundamentally based on the Unified Registry for Social Programs, or Single Registry for Social Programs, as it is also named. And the Unified Registry is basically a form that collects lots of information about the social situation of families on the one hand, and on the other hand, it's a management information system that manages all this information. Currently, 80 million people have information registered in the single registry, more than 20 million families. And so we have a massive amount of information that need to be managed by a management information system. This is the system that is used to not to manage the program itself, but to select beneficiaries, to decide who is going to receive the benefit, who is not eligible, etc. The Unified Register for Social Programs was created in 2001, actually, but it became a powerful tool only in 2005. It was necessary a long time to have a strong tool with very good information to deal with or to offer these information to social programs. In 2005, we could say that by the end of 2005, I actually could say that the Cadastro Único was relatively well, with good information, information that was up to date, etc. The Ministry of Social Development and Fight Against Hunger was created in 2004. It was created fundamentally to conduct zero hunger. There was a joint initiative, or a massive initiative that was created by the Lula administration, the first Lula administration in 2003. The Zero Hunger Initiative collected lots of initiatives addressed to overcome extreme poverty, to reduce extreme poverty, to fight against hunger especially. And the ministry so was created to held all part of these initiatives, the most important of these initiatives. And the ministry is in charge of the single social assistance systems, or the unified social assistance system, which I'm going to speak a little bit more later. The national system on food and nutrition security, the intersectoral action to overcome extreme poverty, the Brazil Without Extreme Poverty Plan, and the Bolsa Familia program. The Unified Social Assistance System, SUAS, was created in 2005. It is a government-run system that organizes and funds social assistance services. In Brazil, it's based on a participatory and decentralized management model. It's important here to emphasize that the Constitution of 1988 defined that social assistance in Brazil would be managed in a decentralized way. In other words, the central federal government would give the main guidelines to the system and would be part of the financing of the systems. But state and especially local governments would have an important role in conducting the system. So local, state, and the federal or central governments have important roles and very well defined and important roles to conduct in terms of developing, implementing, designing social policies in Brazil. And the unified social assistance system is fundamentally this the system that is formed by all these level of government. Okay. In 2006, we had the National Systems on Food and Nutritional Security, CISAN. CISAN was created to guarantee the human right to food. Since its inception, the legal and institutional advances have guaranteed its construction as responsible for implementing structure and participatory management of national food security and nutrition policy at the federal, state, and municipal level. This is a system that have among its members several federal, state, and even local institutions, and also people from the private sector that work with the issues of the human right to food. In 2011, President Dilma created the Brazil Without Extreme Poverty Plan. Brazil Without Extreme Poverty Plan, or BSM, the acronym in Portuguese. BSM was created with the main objective of overcoming extreme poverty. Its main objective was to reduce extreme poverty to a level where we could definitely say that Brazil overcame extreme poverty. We acknowledged since the very beginning that poverty was not a simple or unidimensional phenomenon. It was a multi-dimensional phenomenon. Lots of factors contribute to people to remain in extreme poverty. A lack of money is just one of them, but lack of access to services and education, health, electricity, garbage collection, etc., are equally important. And we have a third dimension that is equally important, that is the dimension to access to the market. The plan was basically addressed or developed and implemented in three axes: income guarantee, using for it all the structure that we have developed during the previous years, Bolsa Familia program included, and access to public services, and productive inclusion initiatives. In terms of productive inclusion initiatives, we have to highlight the National Program for Access to Technical Education and Employment, PRONATEC. PRONATEC offers free courses that are recognized both by the Ministry of Education and employers. Courses are taught by various bodies that comprise the S system. The S system in Brazil is basically a network of organizations that are half government, half market, and are responsible for the highest possible level of job training in Brazil. And so these courses are offered by the so-called S system, and also by the federal, state, and municipal professional and technical education network that is also accredited by the Ministry of Education. These courses are courses of around 200 hours, and they were considered very very good for beneficiaries to have access to the labor market. The Ministry of Education is the the ministry of the institutions that is financing the program, and Pronatec has a special branch to Plano to Brazil Without Extreme Poverty plan that aimed to reach 1 million Bolsa Familia beneficiaries. And actually, after 3.5 years, this branch of Pronatec reached 1.7 million beneficiaries. So, obviously, all the initiatives that were that emerged in Brazil since 2003 received a lot of international attention from the international community. They succeed. Actually, Bolsa Familia or programs like Bolsa Familia, conditional cash transfers, are now adopted in more than 40 different countries around the world. Pretty much all the countries here in Latin America have a similar kind of program. And in several other countries around the world, and several other initiatives were replicated or inspired other initiatives around the world as well. Brazil experienced strong fall in inequality and a strong fall in extreme poverty, and so several institutions here in Brazil were facing a demand to share the Brazilian experience with programs that were addressed, social programs addressed to fight poverty. The Minister of Social Development and DS has a huge experience, obviously, in implementation and monitoring programs to reduce poverty and inequality in Brazil. In the last 4 years, the ministry received almost 90 delegations from different countries, and the learning initiative, the Brazilian Learning Initiative for the World Without Poverty, could be a good opportunity for the ministry to meet the international demand that is still strong, and so the WWP, the World Without Poverty Initiative, would be a good and important initiative for the Brazilian government to share its experience with social policies. IPEA, the Institute for Applied Economic Research, has a lot of experience in the production of in-depth knowledge and data on the social area, and not only the social area, but in economics as well, and in political, etc. It's a huge public think tank that gives or advises the Brazilian federal government. The International Policy Center for Inclusive Growth is another partner in the World Without Poverty Initiative. It has got a good expertise in the analysis of social policies in Brazil and in the world. And finally, the World Bank. The World Bank provides financial and technical assistance to developing countries in order to eradicate extreme poverty and to promote shared prosperity. The World Bank has created the idea of the World Without Poverty and sponsors most of the activities of the initiative. In 2013, March, we signed a memorandum of understanding. World Bank, the International Policy Center, the Ministry of Social Development, and the Institute for Applied Economic Research. And the World Without Poverty Initiative was created. The World Without Poverty Initiative as a learning initiative, and its main objective is to identify, document, and disseminate the Brazilian experience with the design and implementation of policies and programs to promote social development and poverty and inequality reduction, especially from the perspective of the application of innovations of Brazilian social protection programs. The main platform for knowledge sharing of the World Without Poverty is our website. The basic objective is to support discussions on innovative approaches to reduce poverty, to document the development, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation and dissemination of innovative policies, and to facilitate the exchange of knowledge between Brazil and other countries. You are all invited to look for and visit the World Without Poverty website. The target audience of the World Without Poverty are professionals and policymakers in the field of social policy, researchers, obviously, and the general public. WWP, World Without Poverty, works in the IPC, or the International Policy Center headquarters, which is in the IPEA building in Brasilia. It facilitates and supports the exchange of knowledge of operational aspects related to the implementation of social programs in Brazil. Receive demands from politicians and technicians from several different countries. We've got in WWP quite a few products so far. The focus is always on the how to, and to explain how things were developed, how things were designed, how things were implemented. And obviously the objective is to exchange information regarding the Brazilian experience, as I mentioned before. You can find information about the products of WWP in Spanish, English, Portuguese, and soon in French. Several issues, programs, tools, and plans were addressed so far. The first one, and one of the most demanded, was the information and about the Unified Registry for Social Programs, the Bolsa Família program itself, the plan, the Brazil Without Extreme Poverty plan, social assistance and how social assistance is structured in Brazil. So Unified Social Assistance, the Brazilian Social Assistance Benefit, it's called Continuous Welfare Benefit, the Child Labor Eradication Program, etc. Food and nutrition security, so food purchase program and cistern program, and monitoring evaluation in general. So here we have some of our knowledge products, technical publications, events, webinars, videos, and our newsletters. And here we can see some of our upcoming activities. So in March we should have, still in March we should have a webinar communication with beneficiaries of the Bolsa Família program, and in the very beginning of April an international seminar on the integration of data sets and information systems for the improvement of public policies. We will have case studies being launched, subnational experiences of policies addressing poverty reduction, and publications about the deepening of the current problems and approach to the new programs and policies, such as the decentralized managed index, which is index that was created to measure the performance of subnational governments and to give them or transfer them cash transfers to for them to afford operational activities. Well, that's it. We are here available to questions that you might have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Luis, for your presentation. We're opening a time right now to answer your questions and read your comments. So please, if you do have any, write them in the chat. We still have some minutes to end the webinar. And also don't forget to write your name, country, and institution if you're gonna make a comment. We will start with a comment from Dr. Bernardo Kipnis.
Thank you very much, Luis, for your presentation. What I would like to say, and then have a question, is that, as I said in the Spanish presentation also, that I regard this WWP, this initiative, I regard GDLN a very powerful network to be as a partner, because our mission is to share knowledge, and this is all about we are talking here. And more than that, maybe to add some value to this initiative, bringing other experience from other countries that we may be in contact through our centers, especially in Latin America. We have each country here, basically we have one center, GDLN center in each country. So I think it's a good value added that this network can bring, and I hope we can go together on this side. But I have a question too. How is the sustainability of this initiative? When it started, how it started, and how it's going to be sustainable in the near future?
Okay, Bernardo, many thanks for your comment and question. I think that we at the World Without Poverty are really interested in getting more information about what is going on in other Latin American countries. What is interesting about these countries is that basically we have got excellent results in terms of poverty and inequality reduction across the region. Most countries of the region, I would say pretty much in all countries of the region, we had a strong poverty and inequality reduction. And although we share quite a few initiatives, we implemented them in a quite different way. So it's very interesting for us to keep talking with these other Latin American countries to share what we have done, to share what we are doing right now, and to see what we did in a different way. Because difference is the basic aspect in public policies, that we can see how we could do it different, because it worked in a different context. So thank you for your offer, and I think that we can have a lot of space to work together. And about your question, sustainability is a really important question, because we are now facing a much more adverse economic situation that we had in the 2000s. Most countries in the region, in the Latin America region, are experiencing a slowdown. It's the end of basically related to the end of the commodity boom. And in the case of Brazil, it's a quite strong recession. So sustainability is obviously a clear concern for us. Which is interesting about most of these initiatives is that they are relatively cheap. So when you consider expenditures in the social expenditures in Brazil, only with benefits, several benefits that we have here in Brazil, we are spending now, or we have expenditures of around 14% of GDP. Pensions, other social security benefits, other social assistance benefits, employment benefits, and so on and so forth. Expenditure with the Bolsa Família program is 0.5%. In other words, it's a teeny tiny part of this total expenditure. So Bolsa Família is relatively cheap and reaches now almost 50 million Brazilians, 14 million families. So we developed a relatively cheap way to reach families that are poor. Bolsa Família is very well targeted on these families, and we can reach them not only with the benefit itself, but to use the benefit and the single registry as tools to reach these families with other policies that are equally cheap. So I think that we have lots of challenges to deal with the sustainability of social policies in Brazil. But our main concern now, I think, is more with the trajectory or the long or mid-long-term trajectory of expenditures with the pension system, which looks unsustainable in the long term, than with the Bolsa Família program because it's relatively cheap. So I think that Brazil continues to spend too much money in pensions, too much money in other social security benefits, being a relatively young country from the demographic perspective. So we are still very young, and we are spending a lot of money in social security benefits and pensions. But the money that we spend in these initiatives that we approached here, it's very cheap, it's very affordable, and so I presume that I am assuming that they are sustainable in the long term.
Thank you very much, Luis, for your explanation. We have a question now from Sarah from Egypt, Switzerland, University of Zurich. She wrote, can you tell us a bit more about the system organizations? For example, who established them? You said the courses cost $200, or are they free? How do you promote them, and what are people's job prospects after that? She also has a second question you can answer next. Is the WWP Initiative only presenting learning experiences from Brazil or also from other countries?
Okay, I will start with the last one. So far, only about Brazil, only about the Brazilian experience. We are considering to expand this. So far, it's fundamentally targeted to the Brazilian experience. About the S system.
Organizations.
Sorry?
The system organizations.
Yeah. The organizations of the S system started to be created by the state in the 30s, 40s. They are basically sustained by a tax on the payroll. So it's partially state-sponsored, since the states collects these taxes and transfer to these organizations. But these organizations are coordinated by employers. So we have a mass organization that offers education or training for the industry, commerce, services, and etc. We have an as organization for each one of these economic sectors. So, as I had said, they were created in the 30s, or they started to be created in the 30s, 40s, and they have access to taxes that are transferred to them to the government, and they work. These organizations are coordinated by the employers of these specific economic sectors. Let me read your question. So who established them? They were established by the state and jointly with the employers' organizations. The course, I don't know if I mentioned that the course would cost $200 US. I intend to say that the courses has on average 200 hours. Not dollars. So, but they are free at the point of delivery. So they are entirely paid by the Ministry of Education, and because they are targeted on the poor population that don't have money to pay. Moreover, the state transfer to the person that is doing one of these courses money for them to have access to food and transport. Some of these courses also have a special space to receive children. So while the father or mother is having classes at night, there is a special space with a professional taking care of the children for them to be able to be part of one of these courses. Interesting question. How do you promote them? I mean, you are in the spirit, Sarah, because our main focus at WWP is on how to. So it's very interesting. We had failed many times in previous attempts to reach the poor population with job training. And we concluded that it was not a problem with the poor population, it was a problem with the state. Fundamentally, what we have done differently in this opportunity. First, we are working with social assistance institutions at the local level. This is very important because the S system and the job training system, federal, state, and local schools of job training never had worked with these people before. So, as this public was not there before, they were not used to deal with them. So it was necessary for us to be in contact with the social assistance institutions at the local level, and institutions that are in permanent contact with poor people, to bring these people to these technical schools. And it worked. Actually, poor and low-income families were willing to have opportunities like these. They didn't know how to, and so through the social assistance institutions, they were in contact with these technical institutions, and they had access to these courses. It was very interesting. We had to create a mechanism to create proper incentives for social assistance institutions to offer this service. And it was we had got a huge discussion here within the unified social assistance system. But it worked well in the end of the day, and we experienced what I could say a success in terms of offering job training to this public. In terms of prospects after for people that had done or have done this kind of course. We are still making assessments. As you know, most social policies are evaluated not in a single way. People use different methodologies, different data sets, different locations, and try to check if it's working, if it's not working. So we've got 3 or 4 studies. I think that 3 of them show that these courses improved substantially or significantly prospects of former students in the labor market. One of them said that it didn't. So we're still collecting information. Obviously, we are optimistic about that, and we are confident that these courses have or make a difference in beneficiaries' lives. But we're still collecting more evidence about this, and we will try to make it public at WWP soon, hopefully.
Thank you, Luis. Also, Sarah shared a piece she wrote for the Egyptian press about Brazil stories. So if anyone in the webinar is interested, you can access the link she wrote in the chat. And also, we have another question from Bernardo, consultant at the United Nations Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean. His question is, do you know if this type of initiative is taking place in other Latin American countries? And also, was this initiative built based on similar initiatives in other countries?
I presume, Bernardo, that you're referring to the World Without Poverty Initiative. No, as far as I know, Brazil was chosen as the hub in this learning initiative to share experiences about programs addressed to reduce poverty and inequality. What we had here in Latin America, and we have currently in Africa, is the community of practice of countries that have cash transfers or conditional cash transfers. We had these here in South America and in Latin America, actually. Several countries took part of the initiative. It's not happening right now. It's not active. And what we have is a community of practice in Africa right now that is coordinated by the World Bank Group. And IPC is taking part of this community of practice. It's basically an initiative to share experiences among countries that developed, implemented conditional cash transfer or cash transfers in general. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Luis. We still have some time, so if any of you have any more questions or comments, please do it now. Write in the chat so you can read it to Luis. We will wait a minute so you can write, okay?
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Bernardo.
Also, please, if you want to make some questions or comments, please do it on the public chats. Don't do it on the private, so other people can read your questions. They may be the same. You may have the same doubts. So we would like everyone to read your questions and know the answer, what Luis is answering. A question from Reinaldo. Is the full conference available somewhere? You mean this conference, this webinar? Because we will be recording this webinar and we will post it probably on YouTube, on GDLN and the future WWP channels. So if you want to watch the webinar again, you may watch the recording we will share on our websites. Okay? Don't worry. But I suggest you make your questions right now so Luis can answer them properly. Also, Mariana from WWP shared a link. So WWP website in English. It's also available in Spanish and Portuguese. And she's sharing a publication on Pronatec. If you want more information about the program, please access the link that's also available in the slide you're seeing on your screen. And Sarah is asking, is the GDLN also only Brazil focused? I'll leave this question to Dr. Bernardo, since he's the Vice President on GDLN Americas Foundation.
Thank you for your question, Sarah. GDLN is a global network based in each country and has national centers in each country, especially on developing countries. So it's not only Brazil focused, but it is a global perspective. Since we are here in Brazil, this center, it brings the experience of the Brazilian experience. But the idea of GDLN is to be a global one and to get the centers and all this network bringing all together and sharing the knowledge.
Thank you, Dr. Bernardo. We still have a few minutes, so please ask your questions now, because if you don't have any questions, we're going to end the webinar here, and you will be able to watch the recording later. So if you don't have any questions, we will finish the webinar right now. Don't forget the WWP contacts here. This is the website from WWP. It's available in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. And this is the website from GDLN Brazil, but we also have a global website, www.gdln.org. Okay? And we will read the question from Ana Carolina, intern from IPC, which stands for International Policy Center for Inclusive Growth of the United Nations Development Program, UNDP. We are waiting for your question, Ana. Thank you, Ana. Luis, please answer this question. Is there any plan for WWP also publish research from how Brazil can learn from other countries in social protection?
Hi, Anna. Thanks for your question. I think that this is concern, a concern about how Brazil can learn with other experiences in social protection. It's a concern that comes from the country, for the the government, from IPC and from BEA and other institutions as the World Bank as well. But no, so far we don't have no concrete plans about publishing research about how Brazil could learn. So I think there is a genuine concern. There is an interest, but not a concrete plan so far. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Anna. So, since we don't have any more questions, we will end the webinar right now. Again, don't forget to contact WWP GDLN and this website or emails you see on your screen. And if you want to receive this presentation, please send a message to webinar@wwp.org.br with name, country, and institution. We would like to thank once again for your excellent presentation, Luis, and your availability. And also special thanks to Dr. Bernardo Kiknis for his contribution. Also, we would like to thank everyone who participated today in the virtual audience. We will end the webinar right now. So thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you all. And thanks, GDLN, for having us here today.
Don't forget, if you have any more questions, you can send an email to any of the contacts available on your screen, okay? Thank you very much, and goodbye.